Welcome to this explainer. You know, every week you're out there mowing it, every single year you're paying for it, and honestly, it might literally be the most ecologically useless thing you're growing. So today, we're diving straight into the plans that can replace your grass entirely. I'm talking no mowing, zero watering, and absolutely no chemicals.
Here's a quick look at the roadmap for today. We're going to hit the modern lawn problem, uncover the great weed deception, explore fragrant and walkable lawns, tackle how to conquer shade and slopes, and wrap up with the ultimate living system.
All right, let's jump straight into part one, the modern lawn problem. There is just this massive, stark contrast between a modern lawn and a true, living ground cover. I mean, think about the standard grass surface. It's incredibly demanding, right? It provides absolutely zero food for wildlife, does nothing for the soil, and basically just dies the second you stop babying it with water and fertilizer. But then, look at established ground covers. These are self-sustaining ecosystems. They feed pollinators, they actually pull nitrogen from the air to fertilize themselves, and they practically run on autopilot. Gardeners across Europe and Asia have literally used these for centuries, but modern landscaping, well, it kind of just forgot about them. Which brings us to part two, the great weed deception. This is where the history gets really wild.
For centuries, plants like lily of the valley and chamomile were the absolute gold standard for high-end estates and monasteries. Heck, even up into the early 20th century, white clover was heavily advertised by seed companies as a premium lawn ingredient. But then, the 1950s happened. Manufacturers of new broadleaf herbicides realized their chemicals actually killed clover, and rather than fix their products, they literally launched a massive marketing campaign to rebrand clover as a weed. In less than a decade, a plant that essentially fed lawns for free was classified as a total nuisance. Unbelievable, right?
It really exposes the core business model of the commercial landscaping and chemical industry, prompting a pretty provocative question from our source. Why sell a permanent solution when you can sell a seasonal one? Chemical weed control made it super easy to suppress nature, sure, but it locked homeowners into this endless, expensive cycle of buying fertilizers, herbicides, and grass seed. They figured out pretty quickly that a living, permanent ground cover doesn't exactly generate repeat customers. Okay, let's look at part three, fragrant and walkable lawns. Now, you might be wondering if these alternatives are just fragile little ornamentals. Nope. Creeping thyme, for example, was heavily used by the Romans between paving stones because walking on it actually releases thymol, which keeps pathways clean and smelling amazing. Or take Corsican mint. It acts as a natural insect deterrent. When you step on it, the crushed leaves release a peppermint scent that naturally drives away mosquitoes. No chemical sprays needed. And chamomile? It's that rare ground cover that literally improves the more you walk on it. Heavy foot traffic actually stimulates the plant to branch out and form a much denser mat.
Even historical heavyweights like Francis Bacon and Shakespeare totally understood the value of these plants. Bacon actually called the chamomile lawn one of the greatest pleasures a garden could provide. Just imagine walking across your yard, and instead of getting hit with the smell of mower exhaust, you're greeted by this warm, apple-scented aroma. It's a kind of luxury that modern grass just can't touch.
And we definitely have to talk about pennyroyal. Roman legions actually used this low-growing runner for 2,000 years on campaign to repel fleas and ticks. It makes for an incredible living pathway. When you walk on it, it releases compounds that specifically target biting insects, but, and this is absolutely crucial, it doesn't harm bees or other pollinators. It's basically a brilliant, selective biological defense system that we've completely swapped out for synthetic yard sprays.
Moving on to part four, conquering shade and slopes. We all have those frustrating spaces where grass just goes to die. If you're dealing with impossible dry shade under mature trees, plants like sweet woodruff or lily of the valley will form a beautiful weed-suppressing carpet right over those roots. What about those steep slopes where grass seed just washes away every spring? Deep-rooting creeping phlox or creeping juniper will permanently lock that hillside in place. And for those shaded, perpetually wet spots where grass just rots out, creeping jenny or Mazus reptans will absolutely thrive, creating a vibrant, seamless green carpet. Our source also points out some incredible hidden global miracles that really haven't hit the mainstream markets yet. Take Parathea. It binds soil on slopes so well it actually outperforms synthetic erosion fabrics. Over in Australia, they figured out the maintenance-free lawn decades ago using Blue Star Creeper. Then there's New Zealand's creeping wirevine, which is effectively living chainmail. It grows so incredibly dense that it physically blocks weeds from even emerging. Oh, and creeping raspberry? It gives you ground cover, blazing autumn color, and edible berries all at once. Talk about an overachiever.
Now, if you have truly impossible conditions, these next plants are functionally unkillable. Woolly thyme is covered in these tiny hairs that trap insulating air, allowing it to survive baking drought conditions that would turn regular grass to dust. Sedum is so insanely tough, it literally grew on Norse turf roofs for centuries without a single drop of supplemental water. And bishop's weed, okay, full disclosure, it is highly aggressive and you absolutely need to contain it with hard edging, but it's the professional landscaper's secret weapon for dense tree root zones where literally nothing else will grow.
Finally, part 5, the ultimate living system. We've reached the climax of this explainer, the absolute #1 solution from our source. And what's really fascinating here is that it isn't just a single plant, it's an ancient, cooperative system. We're talking about the wood sorrel and clover system, used historically in Japanese temple gardens, medieval European orchards, and indigenous forest management. Putting these two plants together accomplishes what no single plant on this list can do on its own. They literally act as a single, self-sustaining engine. So let's break down how this actually works. Step 1. The wood sorrel spreads aggressively. It tolerates the shade and physically blocks out competing weeds. Step 2. The clover pulls atmospheric nitrogen straight down into its roots, acting like a free, continuous fertilizer factory for the soil. Step 3. Their staggered, continuous blooms provide immense, year-round support for local pollinators. And the best part? Because of this synergy, the ground actually improves in quality every single year with zero human inputs. Literally no mowing, no fertilizer, no herbicides. To put that into perspective, agroforestry research examining this exact ancient plant combination found that it reduced weed emergence by an incredible 90%. 90%! That is a level of weed control that modern chemical applications seriously struggle to maintain without you constantly reapplying them. And the ecological and financial benefits, they're just undeniable at this point. Simply mixing clover back into your lawn cuts your need for synthetic nitrogen fertilizer by up to 80%. It feeds all the surrounding plants and maintains a lush green coverage straight through a brutal summer drought. Remember, this is the exact plant that fed our lawns for a century before we were convinced to poison it. When you compare our sterile, modern grass default against a living system that has successfully carpeted forest floors for literally millions of years, the choice becomes pretty obvious, doesn't it? The modern default depletes the soil and demands constant, back-breaking labor. The ancient system is completely self-maintaining, heals the soil from the ground up, and actively supports the local ecosystem.
The idea that a pristine grass lawn is the default is actually a really recent, commercially manufactured invention. So I'll leave you with this thought as we wrap up today's explainer. Every square meter of difficult, bare, or weed-prone ground on your property has an answer. Are you going to keep fighting a losing, expensive battle by reseeding dying grass every spring? Or will you let a permanent living solution take over? The choice is yours.